Okay, in this video we're going to look at some things we can do to check the feed of paper on either the 3302 or the 2800. One of the very first things we need to do is make sure that the stock we're using is properly aired and jogged. So the best way to do that, and there's several ways. In first year, Mr. Adams probably showed you a method of taking the paper, kind of turning it into an S and getting it to fan out a little bit to get some air between the sheets. That's one way to do it. Works great. It can be a little difficult to do. Another way to do it, take opposite corners, fold them back a little bit so they're cascading out, and pinch it with your thumb. Rotate that back out and hold it. You can see how it separates that. Give that a little shake and let go with one hand, and I kind of do this little thing just to get a little bit more in there, and then jog that up. Either way, you just need to get some air. Once we have some air in between the paper, we're ready to come over and start setting up the feed table. One of the first things we're going to want to do at the beginning of this feed board, there's some metal sliders that we want to have extended the whole way to support the paper once we put it on there. So we'll grab some of our paper here, put it on, and then move our two side guides in. So the knobs are down at the front of the press. Bring those in the same distance, so we have our paper centered on the feed board. Now it's important for all of these guides, we just want them touching. We don't want anything too tight. So I'm going to do that for these front side guides. I'm then going to pull down my gate and raise my table, and do the same thing for all of my side guides. And don't forget the back one. That back one's really important to make sure it's not going to double sheet on you. Alright, so we have all of our guides. Not tight, just nice and snug. Once the paper is where we want it to be, we want to check where these suction feet are. If it's not being completely covered by the paper, so the suction cup's going down, it's half on the paper, it's half off, we actually want to close that suction cup. We're going to lose suction in that case. So if you see all the different suction cups here, if it's screwed down the whole way, that means it's off and no air is going to that cup. If it's up, that means it's on. So this one that's half off, I want to close that one so I'm maintaining suction the whole way across the cups. If those cups are ever looking really dry rotted or are starting to fall off, then that's the time that they need replaced. We also want to check the sheet separators that are located right below the suction cup, or the cat whiskers. There are two copper pieces that stick out that knock the second sheet down so it doesn't go through the press. Only the one that's attached to the suction cup should be going through. If they're ever badly bent, just see Mr. Brady about getting those replaced. Ideally, they need to be positioned at thirds, so 1/3 and 1/3 of our sheet. Can be a little cumbersome to get in here, but we loosen the bottom screw and we can move those around so it's about 1/3. And then make sure you have that tightened back up, because that can fall before we start playing with the air and trying to send some sheets through the press. We also want to set up our delivery. The first step, especially on the 2800s, you need to rotate the flywheel on the operator side until the grippers are directly above and below each other. That means that the guides are at their innermost position, so that's the time to set that. If you're on the 3302, that's after you change the sheet size change button. After you press that button, that's when your delivery guides are at the innermost position. So we're going to put these in here, kind of get centered, move our side guides in. If need be, move the back guide over here by loosening the columns are on the outside, and then I can move that forward or backwards. So we want to make sure we have a nice clean delivery anytime we're running. So when we're just testing feed, we don't need to use our latch system at all. For the 2800s, we'll just need to turn the press on with this top toggle switch. The bottom, we turn this bottom switch. That engages the air. This black knob, moving this forward, will engage our test sheet. So it's turning on the press, turning on the air, sending some test sheets through. we need to make sure that our automatic elevation is engaged, which it is. When this lever is down, that means that the table will automatically lift. If you have that up, it's going to take what sheets it can, but it won't keep lifting to reach sheets. So that's a common issue people have. So make sure that that is down. And really we're going to be working with these 3 knobs, 1, 2, 3. What I like to do is back everything off, back off the suction, the air blast, and the rise of the table, and then slowly start to increase. So this top one on the side, that's the suction of the suction cup, so the air coming up. The bottom one is the air blasting out, so to separate those sheets, and then this front one is to raise the table. So this front one, if I go clockwise, it's going to give me more space. If I go counterclockwise, it's going to give me less space. The combination of those 3 is what's going to turn your feed into a continuous stream going through. So once we have it set up and we see papers continuously going through the press, we still need to check back here to make sure that it's not double sheeting at all. So I'm going to get things rolling. So you can see I use my index finger and thumb just to feel each sheet as it's coming down to make sure it's just one. If you look really closely, you can do that. If you do choose to kind of feel for that, just make sure you're keeping your fingers nice and low. Don't stick your whole hand in there. As the gripper's coming around, you don't want to get your fingers knocked.